Welcome to this latest edition of the Real Deal Podcast. I'm your host, Real Deal Quinn, discussing the world of sports and pop culture. This, this is being recorded, of course, on a Wednesday, a couple hours before Game 4 of the NBA Finals. Milwaukee trying to tie up the series at 2 games apiece. Why the NBA has had 3 games in between 3 days in between games with a series that is in Milwaukee right now. It's just beyond me. They should have played this game yesterday, to be honest with you, having having game 3 on Sunday. But I guess, they want to avoid playing a game on Friday night versus Saturday night. I guess, I mean, we- you know, I, I, I guess that is that's the reason because both nights are terrible nights for television in terms of people being out and about. Like Friday and Saturday are horrible in regards to television viewing. But I guess, but traditionally, Friday night has been the worst night for television. So if you have a favorite show and it gets shifted from Wednesday to Friday, you could probably know that show is on its way out as far as is close to being canceled. But anyway, before we get to the finals, because we'll talk about that and talk about what transpired and what to look for in this game 4 and what transpired in the game 3. Little USA basketball. So the USA gets off the schneid lad yesterday in a game that felt like I've never felt. It's been a long time since the USA had a seemingly, from a mental standpoint, a must win. But that game last night or yesterday evening felt like a must win as they took apart Argentina rather easily, controlled the game basically from the start. And listen, I I think the USA probably will win the gold medal. I'm not 100% sure that they'll win that they will win the gold medal, considering what I've seen in these pads, what I've seen so far in terms of what the rest of the world has, and in terms of what has transpired with them putting together this team. They just don't like. Let's be honest, the talent level when you compare this team to past American teams, 2016, 2012, let alone in 2008, just doesn't compare. I would go as far as say the team that lost in 2004 finished in a bronze getting a bronze medal. That lost and finished with the bronze medal. That LeBron, Tim Duncan, Allen Iverson. Yeah, remember that team that with Larry Brown coaching, Stephon Marbury and coming. I don't think they're as good as that team, to be honest with you. With that being said, they still clearly America still has the best talent, but as we learned in 2004, it's not about the best talent. These teams, international teams, you have guys on these teams that have been playing together for 10, 15, some of them 20 years. I mean, if you notice, there was a familiar face on Argentina yesterday, Luis Scola, who's got to be pushing 40. Like Scola, I remember when Scola was in the league with Houston. He was also Scola was a good player. He was a good player in the NBA, but now he cut his hair off because he cut his hair off, got the buzz cut. I was like, yeah, that's Luis Scola who's been, like I said, he's been playing forever. So these teams know each other, been playing for the chemistry. Their chemistry is at a much higher level, as we all know. But to me, the bottom line is, regardless to what happens in the Olympics, and you gotta remember they will be getting Booker, Middleton, Drew Holiday, so that will help. I just don't think we should send our very best players to the Olympics anymore. To be honest with you, I'm just not. I don't. And if we don't win a gold medal, then so be it. Like I like the idea of having players. There's enough talent so where you can go 19, you can get the 19-year-olds, get a couple of G League players, and a couple of, you want to get a couple of NBA players? Sure. You can get a couple of NBA players. We don't have to have everybody, but to me, you want to have a program where everybody's been playing together for years for years. This group, none of these guys have played together on the international stage. None of them, for the most part, with the exception of, I would say, with the exception of KD and Draymond, that's it. Those are the only two guys that have been playing together, played together internationally, KD and Draymond. Um, I like seeing a group. I remember. Listen, I grew up remembering a time when we had the best, when we would take the best collegiates. David Robson, that group, and of course in '88 lost, and I think that group finished with either a silver medal. And I was like, so we lose in '88, and then we just go crazy, like everybody do. We just panic and just lose our minds. Like, how can America not win the gold medal? And we got to bring in the Dream Team, which is the greatest team probably ever assembled in the history of sports, and run roughshod and beat everybody by like 50 points a game. And I'm like, that clearly was just an overreaction to losing. Um, Listen, we can't go back to bringing the best collegians. I agree with that. Just all collegians, but have it be a mix. Have it a mix of the best collegians, the guys 19 and under, 19 and under, some G League players, and you can sprinkle in a couple NBA players that fit certain roles, whether you shooting, rim protection, point guard, something like that. This team, that's currently constructed, just does not fit. They don't have a point guard. They don't have a pure point guard. I mean, Damian Lillard is in essence a shooting guard playing point. Yeah, he can get some assists, but he's not. Damian Lillard is not a point guard that's going to put everybody in their right place as far as setting people up. That's not his game. But again, the Americans this year, our 19 and under team won the championship. Think about it. If you keep that core of that team together, they will be, because the Olympics is going to be in 3 years. So remember, it's supposed to be in 2020. This because of the pandemic got pushed back a year. If you put that team, that group will have at least 3 Olympics in them when they're 22, at 26, and at the age of 30. Keep the core of that team together. Okay, sprinkle in some G League players or some NBA players, and go from have them all play together, have them commit, just like you did in '06 with the program starting when Jerry Colangelo took over the program, where you got to play at least 2 years to play on the Olympic team, not just jump on the Olympic team without playing in the Tournament of Americas or in the World Cup or in the World Cup or in that or qualifying like they're playing now, and go from there. And I think more times than not, the America will still win the gold medal. And by the way, if you don't win the gold medal, then so be it. We don't have to win every gold medal. We don't have to. We really don't have to prove anything to the rest of the world as far as being the best, having the best basketball team, best basketball players. We know if we put out our best, it's so much better than everybody else. It's not even close. It's not even close. But the worst thing is to put out a semblance of our best and see what happened, what transpired against Nigeria and what transpired against Australia. Because we still, as far as talent goes, still had the best talent. You still have Kevin Durant on the team. You still have Jason Tatum. You still have Damian Lillard on the team. Those are Bradley Beal. Those are all NBA guys. Even without the Chris Pauls, LeBrons, Donovan Mitchells, Anthony Davis. Even without all those guys, You still have all NBA caliber players who are going to the Hall of Fame one day that are on this team right now. Draymond Green is going to be in the Hall of Fame. Kevin Durant is going to the Hall of Fame. Damian Lillard is going to the Hall of Fame. Bradley Beal's on pace to go to the Hall of Fame. And I'm not going to subscribe to this Greg Popovich all of a sudden has gotten dumb and can't coach no more. Or Kevin Durant, or this is somehow going to tarnish Kevin Durant's legacy. I mean, give me a break. But the main reason I want new players, a core of players there, or a core of players in terms of the 19 under, is the freshness of it. You have guys who I feel like will be all in terms of wanting to be there. I'm sorry, I don't think these guys are all in terms of wanting to be there. I don't think these guys are all. They're just coming off. They're coming off back-to-back seasons where you played in a pandemic, all coming off the bubble, coming off injuries, coming off It's been a long NBA season, And yeah, they might say the right things in terms of wanting to be there. They might go out there and play hard, but you can't tell me subconsciously that these guys are just all the way in. Especially the main guys. You either have that, or you have guys that have no business there. Like Colin Sexton, Garland, or Kevin Love have no business. Those guys, have no business on the team. Kelvin Johnson. I mean, some of these names that are on this team right now, you're like, huh? Who? What? I mean, shouldn't they be? These guys are starters, but these guys shouldn't be on the Olympic team. Especially Kevin Love. Kevin Love, has no business on this team. None. So I want a team, get the 19 under kid, young men, get some G League players, some of the best of the best start on G League players, get a couple pros, get a couple NBA players who can shoot, playmakers whose skills match up with the international rules and what have you, and go from there. We don't have to have we don't have to have the creme de la creme of the United States in these Olympics anymore. We just don't. And that means not winning every single Olympics a gold medal, then so be it. We're past the point where we've proven that we're the best country, the best basketball country in the world as far as playing basketball. We put our best against everybody else's best. It's not even a comparison. Matter of fact, we don't even need our best against everybody else's best. If guys, if guys have time to play together. And again, and that's another thing. If these guys played together, like they played together in 2019 or played together in other international competition, they would be running through the competition right now. We wouldn't be having this conversation about losing to Nigeria or Australia. Period. Of course, Game 4 of the NBA Finals, about 3 hours away, as we record here on a Wednesday. This is so far the series hasn't had the classic game that you would want in the finals, the close game, the down by 2-point game, 2 minutes left, something like. We haven't gotten that, but we have gotten some great basketball from an individual standpoint. And there's not an individual right now who is standing taller, literally and figuratively, than the Greek Freak right now. And the Greek Freak is really shutting a lot of people up. He's been by far the best player in this series. He is He has had 2 transcendent performances in a row in games 2 and 3. You can pick your choice. You can take your pick on which performance you think it was better. And it is clear that he has gone to another level as far as his mentality. You can see him screaming for the ball, you can see his leadership on the court, even something like where Bobby Portis didn't want to leave the court. And this is how crazy Bobby Portis is. But Bobby Portis was being subbed in. He was being subbed in for Giannis was subbing in for Bobby Portis, and Bobby Portis still did not want to leave the court. And Giannis had to basically, give him a pep talk. Like, look, man, you did, good job. Don't get mad. I know even in his mind, he probably want to say, man, get your ass off the court. Crazy Kurt Jr. That is Bobby Portis, who actually has played, who actually, has had some moments in this series as well. It's going to play a vital role probably moving forward because neither one of these teams are very deep, to say the least. So you see in Game 3, Giannis just basically get DeAndre Ayton in foul trouble, and you see that Phoenix has no answer for their small ball lineup. And again, their small ball lineup cannot deal with Milwaukee in the paint. It's just not. It's just not possible. Like they have to have DeAndre Ayton is, the third best player on that team, but he might be the most as far as what he brings to the table. He might be the most valuable because they have a lot of wing players. They have an excellent backup point guard who's not playing well right now, but they still have Cameron Payne is still a serviceable backup point guard. They don't have a backup especially with Sarge hurt right now, with Sarge out with the knee injury. When Aiden is off the floor, they get small. They get small quickly, and you can't put Frank Kaminsky on the court. That's just not going to work. So DeAndre Ayton has not had a lot of foul trouble throughout the course of the playoffs, so I don't anticipate that being a major problem moving forward. More than likely, because he's been smart about staying fouls. But in regards to Giannis, again, if Milwaukee can get they don't even have to get great efforts out of Middleton and Holiday. Like Middleton and Holiday don't have to both be on for them to win. If one of those guys plays well, Phoenix may be in trouble, to be honest with you. If one of those guys plays well, because I like it seems like Giannis is getting stronger as this series has gone along, and these extra days only are going to help, with that recovery from that knee, from him injuring that knee, which seems like it happened like 2 years ago, considering how he's playing right now. In Game 1, you saw it. He wasn't really running hard in transition as far as testing that knee. Ever since that, you couldn't tell that he ever had you could not tell that guy almost tore his knee basically 2 weeks ago in Game 4 against Atlanta, or Game 4 against Atlanta. Like you couldn't tell, and that happened on I think the 29th. That happened on I believe June 29th. That happened. You couldn't tell by the way he looks right now that that his knee was hyperextended. And what you like about Giannis is, one, it seems like his mental approach to the game is starting to close the gap with his physical, with his physical skills, which is scary for the rest of the league. And there seems to be a narrative going around, and I started picking up on it like a couple weeks ago. This wasn't new. I really started picking up on it after the Brooklyn series, when he went toe-to-toe with Kevin Durant, averaged 32 and 13, had 40 and 13 in a Game 7 and on the road at that. But there seems to be a narrative with Giannis that people are not accepting Giannis possibly being the most dominant player in the league. The idea that Giannis could possibly be, when this series is over, and maybe even to the future, the best player in the league, like that. And, the thing, and it's the go-to argument with Giannis, against Giannis. Well, he's 7 foot, and all you do, what's his bag? He just dunks. And I'm like, do you understand how many players in the history of the sport have had back-to-back 40-point games in the finals, 20-point quarters in the finals? That list is minimal. I mean, we're talking LeBron James, you're talking Michael Jordan's, you're talking Kobe Bryant, Isaiah Thomas, in terms of scoring 19, 20 points in a quarter. LeBron did it as well. That list is very short. That is like that what he's doing right now in the midst of doing, Shaquille O'Neal in the midst of doing right now is historic. How he's dominating inside the paint. Like we haven't seen that since Shaquille O'Neal in the early 2000s, and that's who Giannis finally has. The light switch has went off in his head and basically said, I'm sure he basically said to himself, I'm just going to be a young and athletic Shaquille O'Neal with handle. And that's what he is. He is a younger athletic version, more athletic version. Yes, he's more athletic than Shaquille O'Neal. I said it. He's not as powerful and strong, but he's more athletic than Shaquille O'Neal ever was, to be honest with you. And with handle, because you can also run your offense through him. He can also put the ball on the floor. And he's figured that out. And there's nothing, once he makes up his mind that he's going to live in the paint, there's nothing you can do. There's nothing Phoenix can do, to be honest with you. Nothing. So this could be a series where, we could be looking back and we could be saying, this is the series where Giannis became the best player in the world and took his career to another level. It seems to be headed in that direction. Now, does that mean that I think Giannis single-handedly by himself is going to beat the Phoenix Suns? Probably not. You're probably going to get a study diet of quality performances from Middleton and Holiday, either or, to win this series. Probably going to get a study diet of that for them to win this series. Phoenix still is a very good team, and I expect Booker. You expect Devin Booker to bounce back. Though, keep this in mind about Booker. He's trending down right now. If Booker was stock has been the stock will be going down. Not so much you want to sell on Devin Booker right now, but the stock is trending down. Like you look over his last 8 or 9 playoff games, his shooting percentage has been under 40% in his last 8 or 9 playoff games. And when he has scored, he's had to take a lot of shots to get his points. Like it's been a long time since Devin Booker shot over 50% in a playoff game. Now, they have a lot of balance. They have a lot of balanced scoring. So they've been, when Mikal Bridges drops 27, or you'll get a random Jay Crowder 18-point game, something like that. They've been able, and DeAndre Ayton has been consistent, and Chris Paul has been tremendous. They've been able to survive some of those games, which Devin Booker has struggled with his shooting. But they cannot survive against the way Giannis is playing right now. They cannot survive in this series, Devin Booker shooting 3 or 14, or Devin Booker performance like we saw in game 3. It can't survive that against Milwaukee. A couple of things. Talked about this last week on Instagram Live. And again, one of the most overused terms in all of sports, especially in basketball, in terms of adjustments. Now, after game 3, you got the classic, they were more aggressive. They lived in the paint. They didn't take jump shots. And here's where you have to actually just pay attention to what's going on and just watch the game. Game 2, Milwaukee had 54 points in the game. Though you heard that same stuff, the same Milwaukee narratives when Milwaukee loses. Lack of adjustments, too many jump shots, not taking advantage of their size. Well, game 3, 50 by George, 54 points in the paint. Game 2, they shot 16 of 36 from three-point line. Game 3, 14 of 36. So it's not a matter of them being more aggressive in game 3 versus game 2. In terms of there are a lot of factors that went into them winning game 3 versus the first 2 games. Game 2, I really didn't mind. I really liked their approach in game 2 as far as how they tried to play. Phoenix just made 23s. Game 3, Phoenix only makes 9 threes. So that like that, and Devin Booker goes 3 for 14. Like that, and they shoot, now the free throws, again, this free throw disparity was a big difference between game 1. It was a big difference between game 1 and game 3. But they shot, did they shoot more free throws in game 3? Yes. Giannis put his head down and led that charge and got to the line. But remember this, Phoenix is not a volume free throw shooting team. They shoot a high percentage, but they don't shoot a lot of free throws. They were not, that's not how they're built. They are a jump shooting team. That really doesn't go to the basket a lot. Who goes to the basket in Phoenix outside DeAndre? Who lives in the paint outside of DeAndre Ayton for Phoenix? Chris Paul and their 2 best players, Chris Paul and Devin Booker, are mid-range assassins. They do their damage in the mid-range and from the 3-point line. That's where they do their damage. So again, and I said this on the live, I'll say this again. When someone says to you, they have to make adjustments, so-and-so, whether it's Phoenix or Milwaukee, whoever they feel like is more than likely going to be the team that lost. So yeah, I'm sure after game 3 you heard, well, Phoenix got to make this adjustment. Simply ask them what's the adjustment they have to make. That's all. Just ask them, what is the adjustment that they have to make? Because it's such an overused term. It really is. And I'm glad Van Gundy has kind of been pointing it out as well, because it can be annoying to hear from, especially when you're talking to basketball people who watch basketball, who just watch basketball, who really don't know the game from that stand in terms of like from an X's and O's standpoint. And I'm not like, listen, I watched a lot of basketball in my lifetime, been around a lot of basketball in my lifetime, probably more than most, considering, you have a cousin that played in college and a stepbrother that played in college, and you're going to summer league games, watching them play against, the likes of Sean Kemp, that, at a young age, that stuff. And how many AAU games I had to witness. I have a lot of basketball miles in my mental Rolodex, thousands and literally thousands. And I'm not a X's and O's, like, and I'm not going to sit here and tell you, I can point out X's and O's in terms of these games. I'm not a coach. So most people are not going to, when most people say something like, and again, that's something that I've stopped, that's a term that I've stopped using in terms of, well, they got to make this adjustment. Like, if I can't name the exact adjustment, then there's nothing to be said. If you want to say, hey, they got to play harder, that's a physical adjustment. Yeah, they need to play harder or play smarter. That's a mental adjustment. So I think tonight will be a very close game. I like Milwaukee in the game. I did pick Milwaukee in 7, so I'm going to pick them to win this game. You do get a sense that this is the pivotal game of the series, as far as knowing what type of series that, if Phoenix wins this game, even if Milwaukee were to win, there's no way you can see Milwaukee winning 3 straight games against Phoenix. That just will not happen. If Milwaukee's able to tie it, then I would be surprised if this is not a 7-game series, if Milwaukee is able to tie this series and send it back to Phoenix 2-2. So this is the game that is going to tell you what the direction of this series, without question. So on Sunday, you saw a bit of history made with Novak Djokovic winning his 20th major. He ties fellow legends Roger Federer and Rafael Nadal. I don't think Nadal played Wimbledon this year. I don't think Nadal played Wimbledon. Federer got eliminated. Federer actually had a decent run. Got to the quarterfinals and got smoked in the quarterfinals. Clearly, still not 100% from that knee, from the knee surgery. Still trying to work himself into shape, into the type, not just so much into shape, but just into the type of condition that will allow him to win a major. Um, he's electing to skip out of the Olympics, and probably get ready for the U.S. Open. Get ready for the U.S. Open. You saw and you heard that Nadal, excuse me, Nadal is going to be playing at the Citibank tournament in DC, which I'm actually going to try to get to see Nadal play. That'll be later on in the summertime. I actually might try to get to that um, to see him. Um, so the thing about Djokovic is in a position to where, and by the way, that's Djokovic's third major of the year. You know, he's going to have a lot on the line at the U.S. Open, a chance to pass those two, and a chance to also become the first player since Rod Laver to win the calendar year Grand Slam, which is just an achievement that is insane. I mean, to win all four majors in calendar year is just something that hasn't been done by a male or female since Steffi Graf in '88. Steffi Graf actually won the Golden Slam. She won the Olympic gold medal as well, which is something that a even rarer feat. Listen, I always listen. I respect Djokovic. I think with Djokovic, the most remarkable thing about him is think about where he was at the end of the 2010 season. So at the end of the 2010 season, this was a race between Federer and Nadal as far as who's going to end up with the most majors. Federer had a relatively commanding lead at 16-9 over Nadal. But Nadal, we all know Nadal is 4 years younger. So that was always in the back of our minds that yeah, he has a lead on, but Nadal at the time was only, this is in 2010. So Nadal at the time was 24 years old. Federer was like 28. Like Federer is 4 years older than Nadal. So we were like, yeah, Federer has a lead, but he's 4 years older. So how long, will he, how long Nadal will obviously have a chance to catch him consider the difference in the 4 year difference in age. Djokovic wasn't even on the radar. I mean, it wasn't like Djokovic was not even. Djokovic had one major at the end of the 2010 season. One. And that was the 2008 Australian Open. That's it. Djokovic had one major. Since 2000, in the beginning, his first big season was in 2011, where he won 3 or 4 majors. He had the 7-match win streak where he owned Nadal for a season. I mean, you go back to that. Anyway, and Nadal, I mean, he forced Nadal to basically alter some of his style of play. That's how bad he owned him, especially on all surfaces. I mean, he beat him everywhere. Beat him at Wimbledon. He beat him on clay a number of times that year, and then capped it off with a 4.5 hour, four set marathon. A match that I will never forget, by the way. That go back, and if you just actually have nothing to do, you actually have to be in a state of boredom, which I don't wouldn't want any person to reach. But that 2011 U.S. Open final was a remarkable match to watch. Just the physicality of these two guys who are grinders and who are going to play from the baseline and just beat the hell out of the ball. It was beautiful. It was great to watch. It frankly was, and frankly, the Djokovic Nadal matches are always great. It's just going to be an all-out war with those two playing from behind the baseline. It really is. So, but that year he owned Nadal, and that was the year where you said, okay, this guy, he's officially welcome to the party. Welcome to the Roger Federer, Rafael Nadal party. But even after that year, he still only had what 4 majors after 2011. So the fact that he's caught Federer and Nadal basically 10 years later, 11 years later is while he's you know at the age of 34 is one of the most remarkable individual feats that I've ever seen in out of any sport. To be honest with you, he has won 19 majors starting in 2011. He has 19 majors in the last 10 years. 19. And remember, he was disqualified. He would have won the U.S. Open last year if he wouldn't have hit the damn ball girl with the. And it was out of frustration. It wasn't intentional. He still should have got kicked out. I agree with him getting kicked out. He wasn't trying to hit her, but he let his emotions get the best of him. But he was going. I mean, that was a match. He was winning that match. He wasn't losing that. He was. I believe he was winning that match, or he was in a. He might have been down a set, but chances are he would have found a way to win that match. I don't think he would have lost that match. So that cost him a major. Like that actually cost him a major. His, again, his style of play. Again, the thing you have to respect about Djokovic is he's continued to add. He is the most mentally tough, most mentally toughest players that ever live. I've seen Djokovic down to Federer match points and come back and to win matches in Grand Slams down match points, whether it was the 2010 U.S. Open or the 2011 U.S. Open semifinals. Back-to-back years he's down match points. 2019 Wimbledon, double match point with Federer was serving. He came back to win that match. Beating Nadal at the French Open, which basically no one does. He has 2 victories over Nadal at the French Open. So this guy, and again, this is why if I were to rank him, Nadal is going to be third in this group because Djokovic and Federer can win anywhere. If you look at how Nadal's Grand Slams are breaking up, 13 of the 20 have been won at one tournament, which is the French Open. Like he's the king of clay. He's the greatest. He's been better on clay than any player has been on any surface, period. He's won 13 of them. But he hasn't had much. I mean, he's got 13 Wimbledons, one Australian Open, 4 U.S. Open. So he's been successful there, but has only what? How many Wimbledons? Yeah, I think he has 2 Wimbledons. He has 2 Wimbledons, 4 U.S. Opens, and 1 Australian Open. But the majority of his wins have came at one tournament. Federer and Nadal and Djokovic, Djokovic has 6 Wimbledons. Okay, 6. 9 Australian Opens. And he'll be after, I think, U.S. Open number, I'm going to say 5. So he has 9 plus 6, 15, 2, or that'll be number. I think this will be if he wins U.S. Open, it'll be his 4th U.S. Open. So Federer and Djokovic have a better balance. Of course, Federer has the best balance out of all of them because he has, 6 Australian Opens, 6, 8 Wimbledons, and 5 and 6 U.S. Opens. Just 1 French Open. But Djokovic, to see the improvement and to see where a guy, again, there was a time where, again, mental tough, he couldn't get out. Djokovic could not get out of his own way as far as from a mental standpoint. He would mentally break down, and that would cost him matches, or he physically just could not stand up to Federer and Nadal. We've seen Djokovic retire in matches because of fatigue, or because of just not being, or because of conditioning. So he is completely done a 180 on mental toughness and conditioning. Now he is easily the best conditioned player in history. Like no player has more come from behind wins in the Grand Slam majors in terms of 5-set wins in Grand Slam majors, or being down 2 sets of love in Grand Slam. He has the most wins in terms of that. He mentally takes people apart. He does not have to play his best tennis to beat you. He, he has made himself into a complete player. Again, aesthetically, if I were a tennis player, I would want to be Roger Federer from a talent standpoint. Aesthetically, the style of his game, yes, I would want to be Roger Federer. But it's not going to be debatable who the GOAT is the way it's looking, unless Federer has another miracle comeback similar to 2017, which looks almost impossible at coming off these knee surgeries and at the age of 39. But again, it's Roger Federer, so I've never I would have to actually see him retire, for me to believe he's done. And it seems to me like Nadal not winning this French Open really signifies probably the end of his career per se, or probably he's closer to the end than being a guy who can win majors, because he can only win. Nadal is only going to win moving forward. He's only going to win at the French Open. I don't see Nadal winning any more majors other than the French Open. And the fact that Djokovic was able to take him out in the French Open this year doesn't speak well for Nadal versus Djokovic into the future. Remember, Djokovic is a year younger, but physically, Nadal, that pounding that his body has taken on that clay, that is definitely taking its toll on Nadal. He cleared out his schedule until basically for the hard courts for a reason. He skipped Wimbledon for a reason. And you've seen Federer skip clay court tournaments and the French Open in past years for a reason, because of the physical toll that's been taken on his body throughout the course of his career. But again, Djokovic is more than likely going to end up as the GOAT, as the greatest of all time. And this is something that we haven't seen this in any sport. Like, it'd be the equivalent of Tiger Woods catching Jack Nicklaus and passing him or tying him, or this is something you don't see, LeBron James playing and Kobe Bryant, the late Kobe Bryant passing Michael Jordan with titles and championships and stuff like that, things like that. It just doesn't happen. It's just something that we will never see. Like, a guy catch two other guys who are well ahead of him in terms of major tournaments, championships, and to do it in an era where you're facing two of the two greatest players of all time, in Federer and Nadal. It's pretty remarkable. It's pretty remarkable, and it's something that needs to be talked about more. But America doesn't really particularly care about tennis because there are no American stars. So, shout out to Djokovic. We'll see what happens at the U.S. Open. Now, hopefully, again, at the U.S. Open, you'll have a Djokovic, Nadal, Federer, that you can get at least one of those matchups, if not two of those matchups. Maybe, Federer and Nadal have never played at the U.S. Open, which is remarkable considering how many years they were both ranked in the top two, definitely in the top three. They've never met at the U.S. Open at all, not for a title, but in any match, in any round. A couple of NBA things before I let you go. Kawhi Leonard had knee surgery. For what we knew, was obvious, it was a partially torn ACL. That's why, it was comical to me, people speculating that, he could possibly come back. Like, no, he's not coming back. Even if they were in the finals, he wouldn't be playing. Like, he had a part, like, that knee injury was pretty serious, to say the least. And we know Kawhi, in terms of how he's managed injuries, that he does not, like, that's not how he and Uncle Dennis, that's not how his team operates. Like, he's not playing through an injury of that magnitude. The big thing is, though, for the big picture for the Clippers moving forward is what do you do with Kawhi, and what happens with Kawhi? Not so much what do you do with Kawhi, because the Clippers don't have any control over it. Kawhi is going to opt out of his contract and going to become an outright free agent. And to me, if I'm the Clippers, and again, I've had a change of heart, a change of mind of this. I stated earlier that I probably would try to convince him to do a signing trade. I'm off that. I think the Clippers, if I'm the Clippers, I'll say, listen, of course we want you back long term, 4 years, and we'll give you the 4-year max. Of course that, because remember, you can always that stuff. If the relationship goes sour, you can always trade that. You can always move him. If something happens, he's unhappy or something, it just goes bad, and they end up underachieving, not getting to the finals, not competing for a championship. So just whatever. The worst case scenario, you can move him. I believe if I'm a Clippers, if I had Kawhi Leonard, that I would have won a championship this year. And I would tell Kawhi Leonard that, like, listen, if we have you, we win a championship this year. It's just that simple. Now, if you have any reservations about us moving forward, we will definitely take the 2+1 contract. Like, if you want to sign just for 2 years and be free agent next year and see what direction the team goes in, hey, we will accept that as well. It's not just a situation where we either want you for 4 years or don't want you at all. No. So this is the ball's in your court from that standpoint, but we want you. We believe we want you here, and we prefer to be long term, but certainly accepting more than willing for you to do the 2+1. The bottom line, we want you to be a Clipper next year because we feel like we will be amongst the top teams in terms of winning a championship next year. That's what I would do. I just don't see any trades out there right now with Kawhi where you're going to receive anywhere close to equal value. And again, Kawhi makes so much money right now. It's like, again, what trade? And I went through some Kawhi trades on the trade machine. I just don't see it right now. I think the best. I don't see. I don't see who they could trade, who they can move some Kawhi for, and be in a position to where they're competing for championships in the future. In the future. So I don't see a great Kawhi trade out there right now. I think their best bet is to have him back, even if it's a situation where he's a free agent come 2022. Now, you get him back, they possibly could win a championship next year. Then it's like, okay, we got our championship. Now you see that we are a championship organization, culture, and he more than likely would sign the long-term deal for the long-term 4-year deal for max money. But I would not try to move him. And I would tell, again, if I'm the Clippers, I'm going to try to run it back with the team that I had. I want to bring Reggie Jackson back. They're gonna make a couple. What's his name? Terrence Mann is only gonna get better. Okay. Nicholas Batum had an excellent play well in the playoffs. I'm trying to bring it back now. Yeah, I want to try to get a point guard, a traditional point guard, and to take some of the pressure off Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. So that would be outside re-signing Kawhi Leonard. That would be my first priority, number one priority, number two priority. But I'm bringing Kawhi back to run it back next year to go after the chip for 2022. As far as Ben Simmons, they had read the article in the Atlantic that the Sixers are expecting an all-star back in return for Ben Simmons, which is, the Sixers. The Sixers are a just toxic and comedic organization. So, and this Ben Simmons, they will not have problems moving Ben Simmons. It's just a matter of what they get for Ben Simmons. And sure, they should definitely expect to get an all-star back for Ben Simmons, but it's really funny for them to come out with that proclamation unofficially, considering how you basically devalued him after Game 7 against Atlanta with your head coach and your superstar, and no, I shouldn't even say superstar, your star center, basically throwing him under the bus. And so now you want to build up his value after you basically just kicked him around like a can after the season ended. After your season ended, um, I think with Simmons, to me, the trade that makes the most sense if I'm the Sixers is Dame Lillard. That is the one that I would be focused on if I'm the Sixers. Because number one, it'll be a perfect situation for him to start over. He would fit perfectly with that team. He could be a guy that, 25 years old, they could they could completely, again, and if I'm Portland right now, if I cannot compete for a championship, if I don't feel like I can put together a team that can compete for a championship in a loaded Western Conference, then you know what? You might as well tear it apart. And there's no better piece to tear it apart, to get back in order to tear it apart than Ben Simmons, to be honest with you. There's no better piece that you're going to get. Get a 24, 25-year-old under contract for the next 4 years, who's got something to prove, who unselfish, still an elite defensive player, and have him and again, all-star caliber player, and have that guy under contract for the next 4 years. You will not find a better asset for Damian Lillard than Ben Simmons. It is a perfect deal to me. It makes perfect sense for both teams. Dame Lillard, move him to the Eastern Conference, put him on a team where his skill set fits perfectly with the shooting and with Joel Embiid being on the inside, and so you can now maximize however many years healthy that you will get out of Joel Embiid. So that is the trade that should happen for both teams. Damian Lillard for Ben Simmons. So Damian Lillard, Ben Simmons, and some picks, of course. And if they want Thibault, and by the way, Thibault looked great against the USA. I mean, it looks like, and we saw flashes of this during the playoffs. His shot is improved. It's kind of incrementally improving a little bit. Like his shot is, if he can get that to where he could be like a Bruce Bowen type, he'd be a valuable asset in the NBA. The way he can defend, he is an all-world defensive player, second-team All-NBA, and is a future candidate to be a defensive player of the year. He's that great defensively. I mean, he played great defensively against the United States. He was all over the place in that game. I meant to mention that during when we were talking about the Olympics. So if they want Thibault and some picks, and Ben Simmons, yeah, let's do it. And then you can move CJ McCollum. The Lakers might have some interest. A lot of teams will have interest in CJ McCollum because he's a legit 20 point per game scorer that's efficient. That could be efficient, and that in the right system would flourish as well. So I think if you're Portland, I think they should go into I think they should completely tear it apart. If you're not going to compete, if you know that your team is not competing for a championship, I think you should go into and just tear it apart. Because the worst thing, you want to trade Lillard before he wants to be traded. And I'm going to repeat that. You want to trade Lillard before he wants to be traded. Right now, he doesn't want to be traded. Right now, he's kind of in that. He's focused on the Olympics. He's kind of in that. Okay, Chauncey Billups just got the head coaching job. Let's see what moves y'all make. So he's not all the way done with Portland. He doesn't have his foot out the door. If you're Portland Trailblazers, you don't want to go into the season knowing that your team is not a contender and have a Damian Lillard just have a pissed off Damian Lillard for the better part of the season, as Simmons because Simmons will by then, Simmons is going to get traded. Simmons could be traded before the draft, or Simmons is going to get traded between now and the NBA draft, or a little bit after. It will not. The Simmons move, the Simmons deal is not. It's not gonna like. We're not gonna be talking about this in September or late August with Simmons. Ben Simmons will be traded in a couple weeks. It's going to happen. It's going to happen very soon. If you're Portland, and they're going to be there's a market for Ben Simmons. There are a number of teams. There are at least 5, maybe 5 to 8, 5 to 10 teams that would have an interest in Ben Simmons. Ben Simmons is respected around the league. Again, he's a young asset under 25 that is an established NBA player. Those guys don't come along. Those guys do not come along and become available that often at this stage in their careers with years still left on their contract. That is a rare guy under 25, 25 and under. So I think now is the time. If you're Portland, I would be on the phone with Daryl Morey like right now, talking about a package for Ben Simmons, and I would be letting I'll be like, listen, if you're the Sixers, those two teams absolutely 1,000% should be communicating. But it is the Sixers, so we we saw what happened with them not trading for James Harden and them not trading for Kyle Lowry. So who knows what they have in mind, what they will do with Ben Simmons. But Ben Simmons should be a Portland Trail Blazer, and Damian Lillard should be a Philadelphia 76er before the next season starts. That's going to wrap it up for this latest edition of the Ril Dil Podcast. This episode will be up before the finals. I have this episode up before this evening before it's a wrap on this evening and before tomorrow. So I will see you next time on this latest edition of the Ril Dil Podcast. Have a great evening. So long.